Hello, everyone. No, don't like my hair there, but hello. Welcome back to Lillee Jean Talks Live. I am here with Paul Reeves. He's like really cool. Hi, Paul.
Hi there.
Hi. So you are so amazing. You're also my friend. And you've done an incredible amount of movies, you've done games, and I think that your entire being is really diverse and amazing. So you are new to the show. You've never been on, so this might be a little bit longer than usual, but people need to know who you are. So basically, the tropes are we start with who you are, where you got there, and, career basics. A little bit boring, but I know your career is not boring, so that's where it's fun. So I kind of want to know how you got into things.
Well, as my career started off with video games. That was my first proper job after leaving university. And it wasn't what I intended to do.
Really?
I didn't really know what I wanted to do because what I wanted to do when I was a wee boy was make movies, but I had no idea how to go about doing that. So I went down a completely different path. Actually, the same kind of one that my grandfather on my dad's side did. He was a draftsman. That's what I trained to do at university. And I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I knew I wanted to be an artist of some sort, But after I left university, I was just looking around for stuff and I saw an advert in a newspaper for a games company in Dundee.
Ooh,
And I thought, yeah, just give it a go. If nothing happens, no big loss. But I didn't know that this games company was actually one of the most famous companies in the world. I'd never
ah,
heard of it. Yeah, it was DMA Design.
very cool.
Now, that might not ring a bell with a lot of people, but its name later on changed to Rockstar
For
North.
games.
That's what Rockstar North was before the name changed. Um, so I actually ended up working at DMA Design to begin with, not long after finishing university. And it was a really exciting time because the whole industry was about to change. Everybody was starting to make games for what was it, the fifth generation of consoles, the PlayStation 1, the Nintendo 64.
Nintendo
And
64. Wow,
mm,
I had a 360, so I'm like, these things have come like so far. Seriously.
I know, and
Oh, so many versions. The
I,
Wii,
I
I had a Red
actually,
Wii at one point. Oh my God.
uh, I actually saw a post on Twitter back when it was Twitter. It was a 20th anniversary of one of the games that I worked on, and I went,
God, you must have
"Oh
been
my
like,
God, does that mean I'm old? Where the hell is the time gone?"
no, you're good. You're good. Well, I'm happy you're older though, because you're living. So that's good.
Yeah,
Because if you weren't older, you'd be, well, dead. That's grim. But Grand
maybe.
Theft Auto could be very grim. Just run over
Hmm?
people with cars a lot. And then there's Trevor.
Uh,
What the hell? So,
I I mean that's the thing. One of the first games
yeah.
that was being worked on in for this new era was the first Grand Theft Auto game. And when I started, the whole crime thing wasn't in place yet. Nobody really knew what was going to happen with it. It was just literally a car driving around a city. And it's one of the reasons why nobody was really interested in working on it. I
Oh,
mean, when you think about what the franchise became,
yeah.
it was the least popular game to work on
I had
in the
no
company.
clue.
At the time, nobody wanted to work on it. You know, um,
I'm
one
like
of the reasons was,
shocked.
yeah,
I mean,
I
I'm
know.
shocked because I know they had like Kate Upton model for something with a graphic. I mean, this game blew up huge.
Hmm. Mm,
So many storylines, so many, endings. I mean, it's crazy.
mm. I mean, everybody wanted to work on the latest 3D stuff, and this wasn't strictly a 3D game. It was a top-down game that was just kind of similar to the old Miami Vice game.
Wow.
There was a slight 3D look with the buildings, but it's essentially a top-down 2D game. And everybody wanted to work on the 3D stuff, including me. But GTA wasn't the main game that I was working on. I was mainly working on the Nintendo games. So I felt really spoiled
My
and lucky.
God, I didn't
And
know
and
that.
the, yeah. But everybody at one point was drafted on. Every artist in the company was drafted on to GTA just to meet the deadlines. So that's how I ended up working on it as well.
Got it.
I don't know if you've spotted it, but there's a photograph in my Instagram, which is actually a company shot of everybody in the company. It was for a magazine, and it's I'm actually smack bang in the middle, with this big jersey on, looking like, yeah, I'm the most important one. But I didn't know I was in the middle. But that was everybody. Well, maybe five or so folk weren't there, but that was everybody in the company,
Oh, very
and it was
cool.
about it was about 80 people,
Wait, it's up
and
now? I want to go
yeah,
see.
it's there.
Okay, hold on. Going to Paul Reeves.
This is getting to a story.
Okay, okay, hold on.
Uh,
Paul, you have like a lot of photos. Wait, there's only
I
61.
don't,
It's like still a
I don't,
lot.
I don't think it was that many.
I don't see it.
It's a top-down shot of overhead view.
This is like what we got, Paul.
No, that's not it. Keep
Hmm,
going, keep
maybe
going.
that? No?
No, no, that's just me fighting a Russian dude. I think you might
Wait,
need to go
up.
the other way. Yeah, the other way maybe. I can't remember where it is. It is there. Yeah,
You know what? I'm
go,
looking.
go,
I'm trying to
go, go.
really look. Paul! Okay. I mean, this is really cool what you did recently, by the way. I love.
All right. Oh, thank you.
Yeah, you know what? I don't see it. You're gonna have to send it to me because I'm like, where is it?
I, I,
You
I
know what? I
promise
know
to
what you
you.
did. It's on your Facebook probably or Twitter.
No, it's definitely there. I promise. But anyway, um, that amount of people usually works on a single game. We were working on no less than 6 games at the same
Wow.
time. One of them was GTA. One of them was Wild Metal Country. One was Tactics. There was Body Hardest on the N64. A game called Zenith on the N64, what got canned, and Space Station, Silicon Valley. And most of us worked on at least 2 games at the same time. I was working on 3. And you don't really do that in the games industry these days. I mean, chaos is a good word to describe it. It was very chaotic because we were kind of left to our own devices, which again wouldn't happen these days. But if it wasn't like that, games like GTA would never have got made because they basically let a bunch of young guys just go ahead and do whatever they wanted. It was a great time to be in the industry, and probably the last time
When you
that
do
people will get that kind of free reign.
when you do these kind of like graphics, do you like follow the
Mm.
storyline? Do you follow the storyboard? Like I know you're saying you had free reign, but you had to have some idea of what they wanted.
The interesting thing about Body Harvest, that was one of my main games,
Okay.
is Body Harvest actually became the foundation for how GTA 3 would be. Because
Oh,
GTA 3 was the first proper 3D version of the Grand Theft Auto franchise. And the model that was used to make Body Harvest, because that was a guy running around, jumping in and out of cars, running around buildings and out of buildings. It was basically a really primitive GTA. When we were working on these games, the story was getting made up as we went, you know.
shut up.
And
Oh my
that's what
God.
I mean. And it was the same with all the games. The stories were happening as it went. Like for example, GTA started to be made before they even knew there was a crime element. going to be. It did frustrate people. And I think that's one of the reasons why a lot of people weren't interested because we don't even know where this game's going.
Mm.
But it was quite good fun, things being made up as it went. That's what I was saying, chaos, absolutely chaos. It wouldn't happen today. Things are a lot more organized,
Yeah.
but a lot of great ideas came out of the chaos. A lot of really fun ideas, a lot of risky stuff. And it was the same
Ooh,
with Body
what are the
Harvest
risky
and
stuff?
all the other games.
Whoa,
Have you
whoa,
have you
whoa. What
played
are the
any of these
risky stuff?
games? Have you not
Well,
played any of
okay.
these games?
The only game is Grand Theft Auto 5, I think. I don't remember. It's
All
from
right.
2012. I don't know. That's about it. And then Call of Duty. I was diamond on one of the submachine guns, so there was that. Don't know how I did that. And then I had Prestige Master, and then yeah. I dabbled. I like zombies. Sorry, Paul.
Well, there's a lot of dark humor in in the games. A lot of fun stuff. Um, Not as bad as people think. I mean, what really
It's like
gave
adult
it a lot
humor,
of
though. GTA is
what
adult.
what gave it what gave it a lot of notoriety was the marketing.
Mm.
Because when the first GTA came out, other violent games came out which were actually a lot more violent than GTA, but they didn't have the very, very clever marketing behind it. I mean, the marketing was brutal. It's like these games are going to corrupt your kids. I mean, there was totally off. The marketing teams were totally off the leash, but it worked. It really worked. Uh, um, they were in the media. It was talked about in Parliament. It's like, what are we going to do about these games that are, warping the minds of our children? What something has to be done about it. And we're at home watching this, laughing our asses off. It's just, these world leaders basically being played like a cheap fiddle by a bunch of young idiots. Um, but yeah, I mean, they, they, they were risky. There was, I mean, maybe one of the, we had no concept of things coming around and biting us in the ass. I mean, mo most of us were teenagers or in our early 20s. We were kids. We didn't have fully, properly developed brains yet. So we didn't think about consequences. Nobody really did. And there wasn't really consequences. Not really. Not terrible-ish.
You're using a lot of words like not
Some.
really, not terrible, but it was
And then
risky.
thinking,
Oh
yeah,
man.
maybe there was. I mean, hmm,
So, this is really great about Grand Theft Auto and stuff, but I know a major thing you're doing right now is actually like films. You've circled there. So I want to talk
hmm,
about, I know you like to screenwrite, but I want to talk first about, things that you've done like Lost at Christmas. Like, how did you
hmm.
start transitioning into those types of things?
Well, like I was saying, I always wanted to work in movies.
Yeah.
I always wanted, ever since I saw Star Wars, I just that's what I want to
Which
do. I
movie
want
is
to
your
build
fave?
spaceships. Probably the very first one because
Yeah,
I
it's
was a I
classic.
was a wee, I was a wee boy. It's not the best one, but it's probably my favorite because I was a wee boy when I saw it, and it just lit my mind on fire. I said that's before I even had a concept of it was a job. I knew that's what I want to do. I want to make
Love that.
spaceships. I want to run around with laser guns. I want to build monsters.
I
I want to
love
do that.
that.
So I always wanted to make movies, but I had no idea how to. And like we were saying, I ended up working in video games, and I'd done that for a little over 20 years. But right at the very beginning of working in the first video game company, I always loved writing stories. Even when I was a wee kid, I loved writing stories. My little sister got a typewriter for one of her Christmases. Both when we were single figure kids. I was the one that used it. I felt like one of these private investigators typing
Oh,
away, and
cute!
I used to write
Oh,
just write
bones.
nonsense stories. I used to write nonsense stories. Oh, here's a cute story. I wrote this story about a werewolf,
Okay.
and I showed it to my gran. When I was a wee boy, I must have been 9, 10 at the very most, and I
Okay.
showed it to my gran, and she loved it, and she said, "Can I have this?" And she kept it.
Mm,
Years later, when I was an adult and she passed away,
I'm sorry.
um, we were s- sorting out her belongings, and I was just taking some of her personal belongings out of her handbag, and it was in her bag. She'd kept it all that time, and the paper was sold, it had yellowed,
Oh,
but she kept it, and I've still got it. It's here
oh,
somewhere.
that is so
I,
sweet.
I mean, I read it again, and it's absolutely terrible, but I love it.
That's very sweet though.
You
Wow.
know,
That's adorable story.
but yeah, I've always loved writing stories, and at the beginning of working in that video game company, I didn't know how famous the company was really, but it's the company that made Lemmings. So once I realized that, I know, all right, these guys are pretty big, but they gained a lot of fame for a lot of the stuff that went on, you know, and I thought I would never believe half of this stuff if I wasn't here experiencing it. So I started writing it down, in like a kind of journal. And I had no idea what to do with it. And I said, this could be a fun story. And it
Mhm.
was uh, quite some time later, I thought this could make a fun sitcom. This was before the IT crowd or the Big Bang Theory was ever a thing. So I started writing it as a sitcom. This is when I was still working in the games industry.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Um, the last video game company that I worked for full time went into liquidation. It's like funny thing about the games industry is it's a tremendous industry. It's a lot of fun, but it can be really volatile as
Mm.
far as security goes. Just about everybody, almost everybody that I know that's worked in the industry has worked for at least one company that's gone into liquidation.
Oh.
So, and
Oh.
and this was clearly my time, because we went into work one day and the boss said, "I'm sorry guys, you don't have a job any longer. You need to just collect your stuff and go." And that's what we did. I mean, they gave us the opportunity to save our work, for the sake of portfolios, and that was it. That was the last time I worked full time in the games industry. I worked freelance from that point on, but that was the last time I worked full time, and I decided I'm going to give this filmmaking thing a crack because I've got all this time in my hands now.
Right.
I didn't know how to do it. I didn't know anybody that did it. I didn't know where to start, so I just started looking on the internet for any kind of theatre groups and such like, and I did join a theatre group, and I started doing amdrams, and then I started doing. I'd already done some extra work. I'd been doing that for a little while, but I started getting in touch with proper actors.
Hmm.
So I started talking to them about, making our own films, making this, and it
Very
gradually
cool.
started to build from that because I tried to punt myself as an actor for a while, and that was interesting and good fun. But things really changed when I started saying, "Look, I've been writing my own stuff." Other filmmakers started getting in touch and saying, what's your ideas and things?" And that's how my first short film came to pass, which was a proof of concept of that sitcom.
Oh, very
Now,
cool.
it never came to anything. That's a totally other story that I could talk hours about. But through that, I brought on board the sound guy called Peachy.
Okay.
And when we were working on my short film, he told me, I'm working on this other sci-fi thing. Would you fancy building some spaceships for it? And the spaceships, because he knew that I did 3D stuff.
Right,
So
right.
he introduced me to this other fellow who was making this. I didn't know anything about this sci-fi thing. It turned out
Okay.
to be a Doctor Who fan film. And I got
What?
introduced to this fellow
Spaceships and
called,
Doctor Who? Oh my God, that's
yeah,
cool.
I got
That's
introduced to this
cool.
guy called Ryan Hendrick.
Okay.
And and I ended
Holiness.
up working on some CGI for that. And he actually ended up having a small part in my short film. And we got on really, really well, and he's still a pal to this day. But Ryan is the director of Lost at Christmas and a lot of these other films I've been working on. When we worked on this Doctor Who fan film, everything started to build up from that. I mean, he had other short films that he was making, like a film called Perfect Strangers, which was a test run for Lost at Christmas. I think the first feature film I worked on with him was Lost at Christmas, and it did really, really well. The BBC picked it up, and they actually played it on one of their main channels on Christmas Day. I think it was on BBC Two, and that's huge.
Yeah.
That's absolutely huge. Um, and since then, I think it was released in 2021. The BBC's picked it up every year to play at Christmas time.
Congratulations. It's amazing.
I mean, it's Ryan's film. I mean, he did all the work.
You did
I
stuff
did
on it too,
some of
Paul. Come
the
on.
visual
You're always
effects
like
on it.
that.
It's still his film.
You're
He did
still
all
like that.
the graft. Um,
I saw the film and I thought it was very good. For anybody who goes to check it out, the ending. I just feel something towards that ending. It's unique. It is unique. So I like how it's unique and I could really respect that. But the ending of it has me like,
I'm going to try and not give any spoilers, but I'm going to
right,
say
no
spoilers
spoilers.
just in case I let something slip. But the ending has people split. It
It's
absolutely has
very
people
split.
split. It even had one of the writers, going, I don't like the ending. You won't, Ryan. It's but she came around a bit apparently. I think the ending's okay, but it's not a traditional
It's
Christmas movie ending.
different. You have to
Yeah,
respect the decision to do something very ballsy, very different.
yeah.
You're taking the tradition of a
It,
holiday and
mhm.
the traditional Hallmarky sort of movies and changing it. So I
it,
respect him
it
for that.
it got turned down from Hallmark.
Oh
Yeah, I mean, when Ryan was trying
no!
to punt it to distributors,
Right, right.
he punted it to Hallmark, and they turned it down
The
because
ending. The ending.
there's there's infidelity in it. Mm.
Just
And
that.
with a whole, we didn't know this. There
I
can't be
watched the
any
movie.
hint
It's
of infidelity in Hallmark movie. We didn't know that. So it's just a slight hint of it. It's not, yeah, a totally bit, but it's enough. And it was enough for them to say no. So we found that pretty interesting. Yeah. Mm.
mm. Do an alternate ending, an alternate storyline. Lost in America, Christmas.
Mm.
I don't know. Hmm.
I mean, his next film after that was Mercy Falls, a horror
Yeah,
movie.
yeah, yeah.
So you couldn't get much different the type of movie because some of the arts bodies in Scotland were calling him the rom-com guy, and he didn't like that. Right? That's it. What can I do to shoot that, rumor
Horror
dead?
film.
And he said, right, it's gonna be a horror.
I didn't see
And
it
it turned
yet.
out to be great
I
as
didn't
well.
see it yet.
Mm.
What was your involvement for Mercy Falls?
A, a, a little bit of CGI.
Okay, cool.
and some of the concept art. I would have maybe have done a bit more than I did, but I was working on another film with Eric at the time,
Mm.
doing CGI for that. You know,
Is
he
CGI is something I
sorry.
think is really important because I know people mess up AI and CGI. So really quick, can you just give like a really quick boom boom? Because I know they're totally separate. So can you give like a down and dirty? Because for people watching this who confuse the two,
It, AI is a totally different thing altogether, which I could talk years about. The CGI is the visual enhancements that is done using computers, whether it's creating a spaceship that flies around that I model in 3D and animate it, or like for example in the short film Sundown, I did CGI in that, but I remember somebody in the audience at the screening going, "Where's this?" I just heard them say, "Where's the CGI in that?" And I wanted to because it's things like hiding things or adding things or changing the hue of the sky.
got it.
Um, I mean the ending scene, for example,
Hmm.
is they're looking out at the sunset, but it was filmed over 2 days, and the sunset was just more magnificent on one day than the other. So I had to try and make the skies look similar for some of the other shots that was
Impressive.
meant to be at the same time. Uh, and other things like sometimes birds were flying across the scene. I had to remove them. The most fun part, and this was the first bit that Ryan told me about, he says, like, I need you to do this. The main actress, Caitlin Blackwood, who is also an actual real Doctor Who actress,
Cool.
um, she she has an emotional scene in it. And the general rule for actors is if you're doing an emotional scene and you're crying, don't try and squeeze real tears out. Because when people cry in real life, it's just a hot mess of fluid
Ugly.
coming out of every pore.
Ugly
You know,
cries.
it's never a nice aesthetic single tear coming down. But she did have a nice aesthetic single tear coming down. And it was a big close-up shot, but unfortunately a little booger came out as well. Just a little drip.
Save her? Did you
Uh,
save her with the editing?
one of my jobs was to remove the booger.
Oh, yes. You're a lifesaver, Paul.
That was the first thing that Ryan actually told me about. I need you to remove this. I mean, it looked good. It looked real. It looked emotional. But
Right.
on a cinema screen, this thing looks the size
Get
of a beach ball. You know,
it.
it was a
Well,
bit distracting.
you know what? You're a lifesaver.
Yeah.
Women around the world, thank you, Paul.
The boogeyman. Yeah.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Yeah. Oh, okay.
But but that was actually probably the easiest job on that project was removing the wee bit of
So
stuff.
complicated, the stuff you do, because when I think about it, removing something like that, you still have like the texture of the skin over here, and I don't know if it was a side shot or something, but you have textures and angles. So it's very
Hmm.
impressive what you do to make it look natural as possible. It's amazing.
Well, fortunately, a lot of the tricks that I learned in the video games career,
Yeah, came to
I,
help.
I, I could use that because it's a lot of the same tools, you know. And plus, I'd already edited my own first short film, which was my first crack at editing a thing.
Right.
Now, it wasn't brilliantly done, but it helped teach me an awful lot of the basics things. So as I've been going and working on each different film, I've learned more each time. Like for example, when Ryan was asking me to do snow for Perfect Strangers, and I ended up doing snowing uh,
Why don't
in
you just cross up?
Lost at Christmas. I
Right.
didn't I
Okay.
didn't
Okay.
know how to I didn't know how to do it, but I knew how to do rain, and I thought, right, if I can do rain, I can do snow. Mm. And yeah, it worked more or less the same way,
That is incredible. So I know that Museum of the Omniverse, it came out.
Mm.
Woo, congratulations. Little
Thank
bit
you. It's a lot of fun.
on there. It's awesome. Okay. Uh, so I know that you have a huge involvement in it, and I definitely want to talk a little bit about that because you look so like
Mm.
about it, and I'm like, this is a big project.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, I'd already known Eric for quite some time because we got introduced by our mutual friend Casey Ryan. I don't know if you've chatted to Casey yet, but
Hmm,
Casey intro
or so, no.
you will do.
Maybe I have. I don't know.
He's one of the Rat Packers. In fact, he's the reason why the Rat Packers is a thing.
I thought Chell
For people,
was.
no, she created the group.
Oh,
The group for folks who don't know what the Rat Pack is, my friend Casey Ryan had this really cool and successful podcast, and I was one of the guests on it. And at the end of each year, we had a kind of Christmas party, a kind of mass Zoom type thing. Zoom wasn't around, but it was all guests that had been on his show, and it was a lot of fun. Um, Michelle was one, Charlie was one. They were all guests that you know on the show, and I think it was Anne. It was either Anne or Ken who nicknamed it the Indie Rat Pack, and the name just kind of stuck. But Eric was one of Casey's guests because Eric was a an actor and a film producer, and Casey knew I was working on turning my sitcom of the video game story into a movie, and he introduced me to Eric to help
that's
move it
how.
forward. And that's how I came to know Eric. And I I I became good pals with Eric, and I knew him for quite some time before he offered me a role on the Omniverse. Well, not a role, but to audition for
Right.
a few roles for that. And I'd never done voice acting before, but I was quite keen to give it a shot, and then that's how that came to pass.
You're
So he
very
auditioned.
good, by the way. Um,
Oh, thanks.
Actually, Eric gave me an early listen to some
Mm-mm,
very, discrete parts of two, two of the
mm,
anthologies. I spotted you. Spotted you immediately.
mm,
Wonderful renaissance in your voice, and the way you dictate your words is really excellent. So, congratulations on that for being your first. I had no clue that was your first. Seriously, I had no clue. It's so perfect. I mean, I know Eric's direction is, but a
mm.
lot of talent comes from you too. And so I'm shocked that's your first. Did you have prior training with him or?
N- Not with Eric. I mean, I'd had some experience acting,
Right, right, right.
and voice acting is
This is
acting,
different though, a little bit.
except you're just sitting down in your tush or standing and just talking into a microphone. You don't need to worry how you look, but it's essentially still acting. But yeah, I was nervous, but I was keen to give it a go, and I
You know
ended
what?
up with four different roles in the whole Omniverse. It was a lot of fun.
I'm so surprised hearing this because if anybody out there goes and listens, which you should, to Museum of the Omniverse, you're not gonna think this guy was A, nervous, or B, that this is like his first major like voiceover. Because voiceover, I know it's like acting a lot, but like I know that like S's for me, I have to be very like particular about and like pops and clicks. It's like you have to like tell your brain to like remember to like say words a certain way or so the fact that what I heard was so impressive. And now hearing this, I'm like, yay, Paul, excellent job. You did so good on it.
Well, Eric gave me a lot of coaching, and
Of course he did.
told me about all the different things like using one of these things to control the plosives because
Right.
there's certain lessons, there's certain words that create these kind of snap sounds, like the
Mhm.
S's and P's,
Tease,
and
tease
the,
also.
these things diffuse that sound
Right.
a little bit. And if you don't use one, you hear these kind of snap sounds, usually with S's and T's and P's. And I didn't know anything about that, you know. So I learned a lot of that stuff from Eric, and he directed all of it all the way through, and along with a couple of other directors for different ones. Like Tyrell, that's the fellow's name I was looking for. He was very good as well. He directed me along with Eric.
That's
It was
pretty
it was a lot of fun.
It's pretty interesting because you transform yourself. And I love that. What is your favorite part? Like, because you had several roles. So what is your favorite one? One. Just one.
The Dragon
Yeah,
Master.
you were good in that one.
Uh,
Might be the one
I
that
mean,
I
even the name, how could it not be the Dragon Master? I mean,
you
it's
know,
just
I think that's the first one I listened to. I'm not really sure. It was Stone and Fire. That one I don't think you're in. And then
no.
The Dragon Master, and that's where I recognize your voice. I asked Eric, I was like, is this Paul or is this you with the Scottish accent? It was like, no, Paul. And then I
Ch
think I
Char
you. I was like, is
Ma-
that you?
Charlie's in the same one, and
His wife, right? His wife
He
too.
retains his Scottish accent. His wife's in them, but not that one.
She's in one of
His
them other
wife's
too, because she did a
is
really
it.
excellent narration.
I think she's in the Stone and Fire one.
That
She
must be the
narrates
one.
that
Yeah.
one.
Okay. I thought she was
Yeah.
really great in that.
She, brilliant, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And Charlie has his own booming Scottish accent
Yes.
in the Banks of the City Thames, and I'm putting on this weird Cockney
You
thing.
did good.
I actually have to do I play the same person, but the
Right.
same person in the story is has an alter ego. So I have to do two accents of the same
Right.
person. This kind of Cockney thing and this upper crust thing, because he's pretending to be
Right.
this
Right.
person from the aristocracy and such. And Charlie actually beats me up in one scene. So he's hollering his Scottish accent at me, and I'm doing this Cockney thing,
Can you do it still,
back
or
and
do you need training to like do it, like on set training? Pop one out at me, Paul.
I mean, this was actually 2 years ago. It doesn't
Right.
seem like it.
COVID. COVID. I think you guys filmed some of
Hmm.
this like at the beginning.
Um,
Was it after COVID? It was during COVID, I think,
it,
Eric.
it it was after it, but it was still. It's about a year and a half to 2 years ago that did these. It's been a long production because it's been a lot of work. I mean, it's
Right.
over 4 hours of audio, over six different stories, and it's full
Right.
of sound effects and music, and 18 different actors.
Right.
It's like two movies.
Yeah.
I mean, but without the visuals, just all the audios, it's a lot of work. But if I was to do the what did the Dragon Master sound like? It's kind of ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah. Oh man.
Yes.
Woo!
That kind of thing. Yeah. If that big Scottish guy comes at me again, I'm gonna run away. Yes.
That's good.
Uh,
I think you got it.
it was kind of like that. It was kind of like that.
That was actually
But
really good.
that wasn't from the story. I was just making that up there. Yeah.
Listen to the story, Paul. But for anybody who
I
hasn't
would I,
listened,
I would run away. Charlie's a big lad, a big lad.
what is I mean, I've heard that like he's like really like Viking man.
He's a teddy bear. He's a lovely gentleman. He's a lovely person, but he he's huge. He's 6'3", built like a tank. His second oldest son is over 7 feet tall. He has big babies, you know, and he's in lots of movies. He does the combat choreography for a lot of big Hollywood movies, and he's featured in them. Although that's not his core job, being seen in the movies and doing
Right.
acting stuff, he trains the actors how to fight realistically and safely, and supplies actors. His organization for that is Combat International, and they've worked in movies like Gladiator, The Outlaw King. I think it was Thor 2. It was one of the Thor movies. Loads of big
Ragnarok?
Hollywood movies. Not Ragnarok. I don't think Thor 2 was Ragnarok. I don't think. I
Three.
don't
Maybe
know.
the first one. Maybe he's in the first one.
I think it was the second one because it's the one where there's a big battle with kind
Okay.
of Viking type warriors, and there's a prison scene,
Hmm.
and Charlie's in one of the modern cages, and I can't really remember what goes on, but it's him and his guys doing a lot of the combat in those movies.
That's very impressive.
So he's a big chap who knows how to use weapons and knows how to fight, but he's a gentleman and he's very smart. He knows loads about history of Scotland, which is why he wanted to do the whole Duncarron
Right.
thing. Like he built this medieval, full-scale medieval village in Scotland, and one of the main reasons was to be a source of education because it's one thing, but actually for some reason doesn't get taught a lot in schools is actual old Scottish history. You know, and he just thought the schools aren't going to do it. I'm going to do it. Yeah.
What
And
clan are you
he,
from? Now you have me
sorry,
curious. What clan are you from? Do you know?
clan, me.
Yeah, you.
Uh, um, my name's Reeves, and that's an
Right.
English name. My dad's English. My mother's Scottish. Her maiden name's Orr, and that's a Scottish name. I've always been told I'm a descendant of Rob Roy, which is the McGregor clan. I don't know if it's true,
That's very cool.
but I do have some kind of semi-famous people that were in my family. Like there's a fellow who I mean, technically my great uncle who died before I was got born called John Boyd Orr, and he this isn't really related to clan, but it's maybe the closest thing. He's got a coat of arms as far as I know, and if it's his, then it's technically mine.
Oh, very
Um,
cool. Did you hire a
um,
genealogist maybe? You maybe you should. That's
yeah,
amazing.
but this John Boyd Orr was actually quite famous because he was a famous scientist, and one of the biggest things that he did in his lifetime is he was actually commissioned to conceive the rationing system for the UK during World War II. So
Oh,
but he also had to figure out how the food would be produced. So
right.
he had to devise new systems of agriculture as well, and he totally changed the
Wow.
world's understanding of agriculture and nutrition because nobody had really delved into nutrition before. I mean, everybody knew stuff like eating certain meats would turn you into a unit, but nobody really knew why. He's one of the first people that actually investigated it.
Very amazing.
Uh, and he won a Nobel Prize as a result of it because of his contribution to nutrition and agriculture. And there's a university building in Glasgow named after him. Yeah,
Well,
he's quite an
you
extraordinary fellow. Yeah.
you need to hire like a genealogist or somebody. I mean, what if there, look, hear me out. What if there's like a really cool castle out there and it's actually like your castle? Or like cool family treasures or like
Probably not. He
you
was a
don't
baron.
know. Oh my God.
He was a baron and a lord. That was two of
Oh,
his
he was
titles,
just a
but
baron.
they were bestowed on him, you know, because of his achievements. And,
Well, I just think that maybe you should do that because that is so cool
mm,
and heritage is So important.
Mm,
Seriously. I mean, we know who we are, obviously, from our parents
mm,
and grandparents, but it's so cool to find out like the past and your roots, everything like that. So I
mm,
definitely think you should. It's just something really cool to know about yourself.
mm,
Plus the fact Scottish ancestry is probably much easier. I know that on my mom's side, because it's Jewish ancestry, not so easy. I'm
mm,
working with a genealogist
mm,
for particular areas in what is now modern day Ukraine, which is all kaput, to
mm.
find certain records and stuff because it's like so hard. So you
Mm.
have easy ancestry, sir. Please utilize it. It would be amazing to know like your stuff.
I do apparently have a massive family. I mean, that's on my mum's side, but even
Right.
on my dad's side, I think it's even bigger. R As far as I know, Reeves is an old word for solicitor or lawyer or something like that. Mm.
Oh my gosh. So, what do you think is next for yourself? Like, where do you see yourself going? And do you want to keep doing voiceover acting, you think?
I'd love to do more voiceover acting, and in fact, there's more on on the table. There's more coming.
Right.
I have no idea. I mean, I will still need to audition
Well,
for
duh.
any roles, but I hope I get some. But I'm going to have a more hands-on involvement with the ones that are coming on a more kind of producer level. Because
That's
I
cool.
I was just brought on, excuse me, as an actor for these ones, but I ended up helping in other ways. So I'm going to help in other ways for future ones, which I think will be really cool. So there's a lot more voiceover projects and there's movie projects as well. I mean,
On
that's
screen?
ultimately what, yeah, yeah, proper
Oh,
movies.
cool. That's cool.
Uh,
That's
I mean,
cool.
that's ultimately what I want to do, and I talk with Eric a lot about it, and there's a lot of projects that we want to do. I mean, these are the stuff that I'm working on with Eric and these folks in America. Excuse me, is separate from what I do with the folks that are here in Scotland,
Okay.
like the Lost at Christmas people, because the same, more or less the same people that made Lost at Christmas made Mercy Falls,
Right.
and yeah, I think it'll be cool to carry on working with them. But I'm even more interested in working more with the folks in America because they're being a lot more involved with helping to get the video game movie made and a
Yeah,
lot of
can
the
we
other stuff
talk
that I've
about it a little bit or
been
no?
writing.
Like a
Um,
little small sentence.
can a little bit. I mean, ask me something and I'll
Sentence?
tell you if
Oh, a
I can
sentence.
tell you or not.
Can it be like a little sentence about it? Because I know it's a very exciting project that you've been working on a long time.
Well,
Well, that could be it.
like,
You've been working on it a long time.
well, it's like I was saying, I started writing, making a journal of stuff that
Right.
was happening in real life, and a lot of that is in the movie. I'll tell you a real story
Okay.
that has a bearing in the movie, that has an element in the movie. So if I tell you the real story, I'm telling something that's in the movie without giving you any spoilers.
Compromising to
So
yourself?
no. So just what do you think of me? No. Right, right.
Oh man.
But back in that first game company in DMA design, we were doing a lot of stuff that we didn't know how to do.
Right.
We had to learn how to do it because a lot of it hadn't been done before, and nobody knew how to do it. And when I say nobody, I mean nobody in the world knew how to do it because a lot of this new 3D stuff just was being tackled for
Right.
the first time. I mean, when I joined that company, they proudly said, we've got, you realize we've got a 3D guy, that one 3D guy. I mean, you think about it, that's an extraordinary thing to say nowadays because everything is so much 3D. But back then, it was
That was a
on
big thing.
the transition from dominantly 2D games
Right.
to moving into 3D.
Wow.
So most of us had never done anything like this before, you know, and there was nothing to reference and certainly nothing to research. There was no YouTube, there was no tutorials. We had a manual to operate the basics, but we still didn't know how to do what we did. So a lot of the time, our brains were like mince. We'd be getting headaches trying to figure stuff out. And to ease some of the stress, we'd play games. You'd say, empty fancy, just a 10-minute, you know, death match, and we'd have a wee network game. And we didn't really see the harm in doing it because smokers, people who were smokers, would go outside and have a 20-minute break. And nobody thought anything of that. So we didn't think there's anything harm in just having, well, we'll have a 10-minute break just playing a game. The office manager got wind of this and didn't like it. He thought we should be sitting at our desks just working. Now, we didn't abuse this. We got the work done and we worked damn hard. But we were a bunch of kids, we just, let's have a quick game, defrag our minds, and then we'll get back to it. But he announced, this is the mistake he made. He announced smugly to the entire company that he'd got one of the IT guys to make this app that let him look over the network and see what each individual computer, what programs they were running. So if we were running something that we shouldn't have been running, he'd know about it, he'd log it, and I don't know what the consequences were going to be. I think he wanted to show the boss that they were wasting all this time, which we weren't doing, but he just wanted to
Did he not
kill our
like
fun,
you? Do you think he
basically.
had it out for
No, I
you?
don't. I don't think he liked anybody.
Oh,
It wasn't about me personally. It was about everybody. So we thought, well, that's the end of work time gaming then. About between 5 and 10 minutes after this announcement was made, I got a tap on my shoulder from one of the other guys that work there. He said, "Here, put this on your computer. You don't have to install it. Just run it whenever we play a game." I said, "Well, what does it do?" It blocks out anybody from outside of our server from looking at our computers. And I thought, cool, but won't that raise suspicions? Yes. So what the app does is it, when somebody's trying to get onto our computer, it will give you a warning, somebody trying to access the computer.
okay.
So we run this while we play our game. When we see somebody trying to access our computer, we turn the game off and then we give them access. So well, let's give this a test then.
How
So
couldn't they have known, Paul, though? Wouldn't they have noticed that you enter in immediately and then sometimes you have to wait a second or two? Wouldn't they have seen that there's a time lapse?
let me finish the story. So we, yeah, so we started off this app that blocked people outside of our little server unit, and we started playing the game, and we're just playing away, and then the thing flashed up, someone trying to access your computer. He's doing it. He's doing it. He's doing it. Like, calm down. Switch the game off and access.
So you thought you were slick. Oh my
So
God.
so 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 we didn't know what was meant to happen, right? So we kept doing that, throughout the week. After 2 weeks, we heard that the office manager had bollocked the IT guy because he thought the network was running slow. It wasn't running slow. It was us blocking it. So we were just blocking him out for a few seconds, not too long, but long enough for him to think, okay, the network's grinding to a halt.
I wonder how this would
And
work.
the IT guy, the same one that created the app, got bollocked,
I wonder
got
how
into a
this would
row.
work.
You know.
I wonder how this would work today because the first thing in my mind is, okay, well, there's a lapse in time compared to other
Mm,
times I try to go in, so then there's clearly a block. So I wonder today, would this
mm.
work? I don't know. They have cameras everywhere and I don't know. Maybe not.
Uh, I, I, I,
You know
I don't know
what?
how
Hold
comfortable
on. I
people would
digress.
be
Hold on.
being cameras. Yeah.
During COVID, people were
Mm,
running their and logging in that they actually were on
mm,
like an application for X amount of hours. And then, businesses
mm.
found out this is not true. That so hold on. Actually, people are still doing that. The only harm I see in it would be company time, I guess, for server space they're paying for, unless you guys came in and paid for your own server space, or they're paying for
The,
it.
the, the servers were all internal in the company.
Oh, okay.
It wasn't an external company leasing it, if that's what you mean.
And you had like time, you had like a break, right? Every time you worked. So if that's how you wanted to spend your break, I don't see a problem with it.
I know, but the office manager
You didn't like it.
just just liked to be an ass, basically. But this story
Right.
features in the movie script. It
That's
plays quite a significant part. I mean, the fact that one of the guys I worked with made this app within about 5 minutes,
brilliant.
it's just testament to how smart some of these guys were. I've worked with quite a few companies after that company and worked with a lot of really smart guys. You know, in that company, I've never known so many people to have such a great work ethic. I didn't get along with all of them, but universally in that company had the best work ethic of any company I ever worked with out there. They're just smart people, determined to create fun stuff, genuinely passionate about it, and didn't stop until it worked. I've seen a lot of people in other companies giving up if things look too hard. I went to one of the coders once in another company with an issue I was finding with the handling of one of the vehicles
Okay.
for a racing game, and his attitude was it's not serious, just ignore it. That would never have happened in this company. That other company, they would have wanted to know what was causing this issue, and they would want to get to the bottom of it and sort it. You know, um, the issue with the car wasn't game breaking, but it was a minor glitch, too minor for him to be bothered about. But if this was mentioned in that first company, they would
Right.
have wanted to get to the bottom of it. It was just the difference in attitudes with different people,
I think
you
it's
know.
important to be involved. It's important to know what's going on in your own company and to be involved. So it's just my opinion.
Mm,
Nothing
mm,
is too small, nobody is too small, and
mm,
everything is important when you want to make a good product and a good creation.
mm,
And
mm,
I know that you're extremely dedicated to every single role you've played, scriptwriter, producer, you've acted. I mean, you've done so many things, Paul, and I think you're highly inspirational for anybody out there. I know that there are going to be a lot of GTA fans that are like, they're gonna be like how you were to Star Wars. So I know that a lot
I,
of people are gonna be like really stoked when they watch this episode.
I mean, my involvement in GTA was pretty small. It's
Paul,
it's like it. What?
do you know I could say everybody, I could say, oh yes, Paul Reeves just had tea with the King of England and he's his second cousin. And Paul will be like, no, I'm just the
It's just tea.
me, I'm just me and it's just tea. And you know what? I don't even like that tea. It's not the tea I like. That is
Mm,
you. And I love that. You're humble. But sometimes there's some really great things that need to be just shiny and sparkly. And you're sparkly, Paul. You're very, very sparkly.
as long as it's not emo vampire sparkly.
I can't. Oh my God, you're Edward Cullen.
What? God,
Wait, with the Cockney accent, we can make it happen.
that's a great idea. That's actually a
Oh my
great
God, this
idea.
needs to happen.
A Cockney vampire.
Imagine you're Edward Cullen right now. Swoon! I'm Bella, whatever.
I'm
I think she's
regretting
like,
mentioning that already. I'm
right, it's like
regretting.
ancient now, but great franchise.
Mm.
Oh my God, you'd make a great vampire. So would I.
I'm writing supernatural movie scripts, mainly werewolf based, but there's vampires there too. So yeah, maybe.
Mm. Oh,
Mm.
wonderful. I hope I get to audition. Are they werewolves by choice or born that way? Like, are they just Lupins or
I've got two different scripts going that are based on werewolls, and
wait,
one of
can you
them
mention it on
is
the show?
Scottish werewolves. What?
Can you mention it on the show or no?
Yeah, a wee bit. I'm just going to talk about the Scottish werewolf, which is a real part. I don't mean they're real, but it's a real part of Scottish mythology, and they're called Wolver,
Ooh.
and they're not technically a werewolf where a person transforms into a wolf. They are an actual race of people that are these bipedal wolves. It's the way they are all the time, and they're called Wolver, and it's part of Scottish mythology. And I've incorporated that into one of the stories I've been writing.
Are they
But they're
furry
good.
from
They're
head to
they're good.
toe?
What's up?
Are they furry from head to toe like little kitty cats? Are they
I
like little perros?
they're basically like what bipedal wolves, but not in the kind of
Cute?
furries sense.
Cute or ugly?
Hmm?
Are they ugly?
Um, I guess like human beings, there'll be some that are pretty and some
Oh,
that are
okay.
but ugly. Yeah, there's but ugly.
You just dropped the
It's just
bar
like
to
just
butt
like people,
ugly. I'm like ugly, and you're like, nah, be ugly.
Some will probably be ugly. Yeah, yeah. Some will probably be idiots, and some will be smart. Yeah, they're just people, but they look like wolves. Yeah, yeah. I could expand the lore a bit. It's that some of them can be complete arseholes, and some of them can be really friendly. But on a whole,
You're great the way you're
they're meant to be
explaining
quite.
this. The way you're
On a
explaining
whole,
this is legend.
on a whole, the Wolver are meant to be quite civilized, who keep to themselves. This is the
Right.
folklore. They keep to themselves unless provoked, where they will literally savage you. But they mostly spend their time fishing, as in with a fishing rod. And
So,
and the legends are that people used to see them fishing.
so I think it's new. I like that it's a new thing that I've never heard of before. So
Mhm.
you have an American here who likes the idea. I've never
Mhm.
heard of werewolf fishers, but
Mhm.
I like it. So is that
I,
like in
I'm not
Scotland?
focusing on them fly fishing and and things like that. That's just a small part of it.
No, I think it's cool. It's probably the way you explain it. Fly fishing. What the hell is that?
Mm.
I think it's very cool. It's just, some okay. Well, I think it's very cool and I think it's pretty interesting. What about the vampires? Anything about that or no?
Well,
What is the Scottish
I,
legend on that? Or is
again
there?
in Scottish folklore, there are vampires as well,
Hmm.
and they're typically women who feed off men. And they're I never invented it. What will you ask me? It's but yeah, they're going to feature in the
Okay.
same story as well.
Do
Yeah.
they look like sea hags?
No, they're actually
They're gorgeous.
really beautiful because they lure men in. And when the men come in, they take their blood. Yeah.
So right in the neck, or are they different? Do they have a preference on the meat?
I don't know. It's like you got a nice
Nobody ever
plump
wondered in
tush.
Scotland?
Plump tush, I'll have that.
They like the bum
I
bum? Do
don't I
they
don't
like?
know.
Okay, so there's
I
options.
mean, the artistic depictions of them so far are tend to be kind of red-haired beauties, but with really pale skin.
Maybe sometimes I'll eat myself and see if it's good. Maybe I'll be a vampire. Oh my God.
Mm.
Woo! Thank you.
Yeah.
You know that Queen Elizabeth I, well, you probably do know this history-wise.
Mm,
Like, if it wasn't for her, redheads would all still be like executed. Redheads were seen as the devil. If it wasn't for her
mm.
all those years ago, which many people don't really credit her with, people would still be like, redheads are bad and the devil. So I really credit her for that. I think she's in
I,
heaven,
mm, mm.
floating.
I mean, it's interesting to know how that kind of started because there was obviously a lot of Scots and Irish who were red-headed, and the the English at the time. This isn't a slant against the English. I'm just talking about history.
It's history,
They
straight
like to
history, yeah.
they like to demonize
Mm-hmm.
uh the Scots and the Irish at the
Didn't
time. So
they take them over?
it was probably something like that.
Yeah, yeah, you're
Yeah.
talking.
There was major wars between
Mhm.
England and Scotland. Yeah.
Yeah, it's terrible. I think Queen Elizabeth I is like a great like for for people with like red hair because she brazenly wore her hair. She was a queen, and it's just
Mm.
very poignant, poignant moment. Wow, we talked about lots of weird things today. Fishing werewolves, cool games, awesome new like screenwriting coming soon. Love that.
Mm.
I think it was amazing having you on today, Paul, and I really appreciate you
Mm.
taking out the time. Um, is there anywhere anybody could check to see like new updates on things coming out?
I pretty much cover everything that I'm able to talk about on my socials, like Instagram,
Okay,
uh, to a lesser extent, Twitter or X. But
cool.
I mostly feature it all on Instagram, and on my Instagram page, there's a link in my bio to my link tree, which goes to everything that I've currently got out there, you know.
Cool.
So you can pretty much find out everything just by going to Instagram and my bio link, and that's where I'll be updating everything that I'm able to talk about.
Thank you, Paul. You for coming
You're
on.
very welcome.
You let
Saucy
me
words, spicy words, rather.
see this is a great blooper, Paul. You're just
Yeah.
full of okay. Action, action. Sorry. Speak seriously now, Lily. Okay. I'm so sorry. But I love how
Yeah,
you
don't
wear
worry.
red. It's really matching.
Oh, yeah, this background's new. That's pretty. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
good.
it's a
That's
nice
nice.
one. I've actually had it a
Yeah.
while now. I just started using it again. Oh wow, it's so weird. It's totally off topic. Okay, okay. Let me pause the recording.